hope by doing what we're doing, then we can be a catalyst so that we can give a greater impact. Allow me to start with this. This is a hard reality that Jakarta people have to face every single day. And unfortunately, there are many studies, and some of the studies have different data analysis point. But the study that we're looking at this moment is based on this study that most of the air pollution is caused by the rides. So during dry season is the worst time. So fecal emission, as we can see in here, contribute to up to 50% of the pollution, the air pollution in Jakarta. And this is caused partly by the growth of number of vehicles in Jakarta. And of course, this growth is about 9 times bigger than the growth of the road structure. And so I think it is one of the reasons. So there's so many ways that we can do to try to solve this issue from the transportation point of view. But we need to have an integrated solution from providing and focusing on public transport to regulating private and other commercial vehicles so that each vehicles have, we can mitigate the CO2 that comes out from each vehicles. So what have Bluebird as a transportation company? Bluebird is known as a taxi company, but also we have buses and we have car rental. So we pledge, this is before COVID, we pledge to have 50-30 vision. So we try to reduce 50% less emission and waste. So it's not just emission, but also waste, because it can be related as well by 2030. Of course, this is a very ambitious objective. We may need to review it from time to time, but we strongly believe that as a private company, we can do something without having to wait for the government policies and also, other supporting. One of the things that we did, which we think is quite important, is the installment of CNG in our eyes. And also, we launched full electric taxi in 2019. So we really want, as you mentioned earlier, we want to be the data collection point because our taxis are running randomly. So if the government needs to have the data or institution, NGO need to have the data to pinpoint where to put the charging stations, I think we would be beneficial for that as well. So we want to be an open a catalyst for the adaptability of electric vehicle in Indonesia. So how do we scale it up? Because we don't have that many electric taxis at this moment. We work together with other institutions. One of it is that so every ride, if you ride in an electric taxi, then you can also plant a tree, for example. So by doing that, we collaborate with other institutions and NGO, then we can give a bigger impact. So not only just reduction in emission directly, but also as an ecosystem. So the Indonesian government also already done a lot of things, especially in transportation, the Ministry of Transportation. They plan to change their Transjakarta 10,000 buses to electric buses. But of course, this also will need the whole stakeholder support in order for it to be implemented. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Noni. Yes, a nice round of applause for that. And yes, it's very inspiring, and we need private sector companies like yours actually to help with the scaling up. And it's very interesting, this concept of not just reducing emissions from the car, but also planting a tree. So is it that how do you deal with planting the tree? What's the link with the car?
Yeah, so the customer can opt. So in the beginning, we did a program together with an NGO. It's WWF. And so every ride, we plant a tree. So now it is an option for customer also to plant a tree. We do it through apps. So we have planted quite a lot of tree since 2019. Of course, during pandemic, it didn't work, but now we are reintroducing it again.
Oh, that's excellent. So the passenger can, I guess, pay or contribute a donation for planting the
Contributes,
tree.
and we top up.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's an excellent approach, I think, that you're using in Bluebird. So, and then we all talked about the importance of data. So let's move to Professor Zhu Tong. I think Peking University has done a lot of work in the data collection space, and also, I think, influencing policy decisions in PRC. So if you, Professor Zhu Tong, if you can also talk about, the work that you've been doing, and what kind of actions that you can keep doing or do more to scale up solutions to reduce air pollution, and what kind of collaboration and support you need from other stakeholders to ensure that all this rich data that you're collecting and analyzing actually gets translated into actions on ground.
Yes, I think to address your question, I have 2 slides. But the second slide is for your second question, so I don't know I should finish or not. But for the first question, we've been looking back about 12 years ago. China has the historical record of air pollution, and the pollution was so serious that the public has a big concern. And ever since that time, the government launched this national action plan. And in the meantime, not only the action, but also research. So we have 3 major research programs addressing the air pollution. And we believe that air pollution is such a complicated issue. It involves the emission from different sectors. So many sectors are involved. It involved this meteorology and complicated chemical reactions. We use the term we call secondary pollutants is because of the chemical reaction produced in the air. And there's also complicated impacts. It's not only on human health, ecosystem, and other climate change. So to understand such a complicated issue, without scientific research, you cannot achieve air pollution. So after this more than 12 years later on, we see China has reduced its air pollution very successfully. For the first phase, we like see that the Bromberg report that China reduced the air pollution in 7 years, as much as US in 30 years. So we believe that the sound science is critical for the sound policies. And in order to have sound science, what you mentioned about the data is a very important one. To have this air pollution monitoring network established, to have a comprehensive emission inventory, to have the models that be able to simulate complicated process that transport of air pollution from one region to the other region, and the chemical reaction happening during the transport period. This needs a lot of scientific research. So when we look back, scientific play a critical role in supporting the government policy. But looking into the future, as you mentioned that, Asia is the place on the earth has the most population. And also, in the sense, exposure to the air pollution causes the mortality, we have the highest one. And Asia, different countries have different stage paying to the air pollution. And so we need to work together. So I think there are 2 boundaries we need to cross in order to working together. First is the academic research with the policymaker. We have crossed the boundary to working together. And the second one is the national boundary between the different countries. We need to cross the boundary to working together because air pollution, it doesn't recognize boundary. So we have to working together. And we believe that share the knowledge and experience among the Asia countries is very critical at the current stage, and we need forward working on this to, as you mentioned, to working on the higher level to that. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Professor Tong. I think that's very important because air pollution is actually a very, if you dig into the details, it's the kind of work that no one wants to do. No, actually, it's not very attractive. But then we have people like you who can help us to dig into the details of the science and guide the policymakers, you know, based on like solid data and science. And the point you made on the cross-boundary collaboration, that's very important. And actually, there was a session earlier on the Indo-Gangetic Plain. As we all know, in South Asia, pollution, you know, from one country, it easily goes to another country, and even in Southeast Asian countries. So that's the problem with which everyone is facing. So I think that's a very important point in terms of sharing the data and not reinventing the wheel, because very often someone is already collecting a lot of data and you can just work on the basis of the data that's already available. So thank you, Professor Zhu Tong, for your answer. And now if we can move to Mr. Ramon, I think we can call you Mon. We understood that you are doing some very interesting work under your NGO and working with the health experts. So if you can share the work that you're doing and you know what you are doing to scale up the solutions and what you can do more to scale up the solutions to reduce air pollution, and the kind of support or collaboration you need from other stakeholders.
Yeah, thank you so much for this opportunity. I represent Healthcare Without Harm, Southeast Asia. And I just want to point out three things. First, in August, we assisted and we are now providing the Secretariat work on this new alliance, Health Alliance for Climate and Clean Air Philippines, which are comprised of doctors and healthcare professionals and institutions, particularly the Lung Center of the Philippines, the Philippine College of Chest Physicians, the Philippine College of Physicians, the doctors working on allergy, and then RISE Alliance as well. The very reason why this was formed is that there is an acknowledgement that air pollution is primarily a health issue, globally as well as in our region, and so much more here in the Philippines. Now, the alliance was formed exactly, one, to articulate the health impact and educate the public. Second, to relate with policymakers, particularly in the DNR, who is managing our air quality standard, with the WHO, even with the Climate Change Commission, because this is very much a climate issue, of course, with the Department of Health. Now, the work being done by these doctors, and they are clinical people. They work in their own hospitals, in the wards, but they realize that their work can only do so much to cure patients, because so much of the environmental harm is happening that brings more patients to the hospitals. We're doing this in the Philippines, in Indonesia, in Malaysia, in Thailand, across the countries here in the Southeast Asia. So that's the first part. The second work that we're doing, which contributes to addressing air pollution, is for the healthcare sector itself, hospitals, to do their own mitigation action within healthcare facilities, whether this is the adoption of new and sustainable, renewable form of energy and vehicles, the fleets inside the hospital, or even reducing healthcare waste. These are all contributing to reducing the impact of air pollution. Now, the third, and for which we are doing a lot of work on health and climate, and many of my colleagues are preparing to go to the COP28 in Dubai, because we feel that the health crisis being made worse by the climate change can only be addressed, and air pollution as well, by shifting our energy towards renewable and distancing away from our own dependence on fossil fuel. And this is the biggest advocacy that we're doing, and we're doing this both at the hospital level, at the country level, forming alliances like this, hospitals doing their own mitigation and adaptation work, and international advocacy as an international NGO, as a network of Global Green and Healthy Hospital Network and healthcare professionals doing work on air pollution and climate. Thank you.
Thank you, Mon. That's a very, I think, the work that your organization is doing is touching from many angles, and it's interesting how you're working with the health sector specialists and with the doctors themselves, actually, because they are the ones that are treating the patients. So influencing them, because normally we trust our doctors and we listen to whatever advice they give us. So I think that's a very a good way of actually encouraging people to adopt, even lifestyle choices which are less polluting. And also the part on the health sector themselves, if they can use low carbon technology for all the medical appliances, the vehicles. So that is also something which I understood even the WHO is working on promoting that, and the focus on fossil fuels and how it's affecting health, air pollution, and climate change. So all very good points raised. Thank you, Mon. And lastly, if I can call on Yoko to share your perspectives from a multilateral development bank, on what we are doing, what we can do better to scale up solutions, and what kind of collaboration and support do we need from other stakeholders for us to do our job better.
Great, thank you very much. It's such a pleasure to be here with the diverse and such a great panelist here. And I just really want to take this opportunity to thank everybody for this past 3 days. It's been amazing sort of energy and enthusiasm and all coming together, and even this closing, it's all packed here, and we see that sort of coalition and network coming. So thank you very much for the partnership with the Clean Air Asia as well as the CCAC of UNEP, and it's been a pleasure to host this at the Asian Development Bank. So for Asian Development Bank, as a multilateral development bank, I think our key area of support that we can provide and scale up this work is the technical assistance and finance that we provide through the developing countries. And we've been doing this over the years and expanding. Nearly $10 billion has been invested in air quality improvement, but this is still not enough. And what we see that in order to scale up this, we really need to sort of raise the portfolio, raise the policy sort of interest and commitment, and then bring in resources together with other multilateral development banks. We have a coalition of multilateral development banks like World Bank and other banks here, so that we can work together and leverage the resources together. And the strength of multilateral development bank is that we can bring in both private sector and public sector and have a blended finance for these initiatives. In ADB, we have supported green bonds, blue bonds, basically bringing in private sector investment funding to these thematic areas. And I think I remember that one of our colleagues talked about even air quality bond might be a possibility in the future. And we can, think about innovative financing in this area further and test and work it out with the developing countries. And I think, as we have been hearing, there is a lot of initiative going on. And I think another issue is really partnership. So we can really work with scientific organization like the university, as we heard, and then the political will from the cities and the governments of the national level and the local level to bring in that political will. And also, I think a number of areas we heard about, but really make it clear what the economic impact and benefit of air pollution is. And that's a really huge sort of impact that we can bring in to scale up these initiatives from both the public and private sector, because that would really raise the decision makers' interest and need for action moving forward. I also want to inform that, ADB has been working on the Asia Clean Blue Skies program. Actually, this conference itself for knowledge sharing and convening for, policy dialogue and sort of linking that towards a real investment program is something that Asian Development Bank has been working on. And I think that we can do much more, taking this momentum from this past 3 days. We heard a lot of good ideas and great sort of interest for investment further, and we can make it happen with our sector colleagues and private sector colleagues in our office, so that we can join forces internally as well to support these initiatives. So with that few words, I think, it is really clear that working on air pollution is really working on climate change issue. It's, both sides of the coins, and we really feel that as an Asian Development Bank, which is the climate bank for Asia and Pacific, can really contribute in this area. And we have ambition of $100 billion to be invested in climate change until 2030. And this can be a critical area that we can corroborate and work with the developing countries. And also particularly the vulnerable communities. We have talked about the impact to women, impact to youth, impact to indigenous peoples. We need to really look at how we can address peoples on the ground, the most impacted, and support them to have a more healthier planet and healthy people. Thank you.
Thank you, Yoko. So yes, I think there are a lot of innovative financial instruments out there, and yes, maybe we can explore equality bonds. There are a lot of different kinds of bonds that are coming up now, and basically anything, whatever we have, we can pull out, to accelerate the application of solutions to address air pollution, and also highlighting the economic impacts. I think that is also key, especially to our government, our developing member countries, because usually, I think in the previous panel discussion, someone had mentioned the Ministry of Finance and the Ministry of Economic Affairs officials. They don't see air pollution as something, under their mandate, so it's not given as much priority. So I think we really need to, convey the message that it is an economic problem, not just an environmental or health problem, and lots of opportunities for scaling up our efforts. So if I can move on to my second question, which is, from your experience, what do you think is the most important element to have successful stakeholder collaboration? So Ms. Andrea?
Yeah, for a city like ours, our 3 million people with 16,000 hectares of land space, effective communication should be embedded in the entire planning process to project implementation. So what we have done is we involve a lot of stakeholders. We have reporters from our traffic enforcement team. We have reports coming from our barangay officials, and we have students reporting to us the situation of air quality in different areas. So while we have 40 non-reference sensors deployed everywhere, I think what is more important is acknowledging the important role of effective communication to be able to cascade that effectively also. That is very understandable and very simple. This is highly technical. This is very difficult to understand. In fact, when we started this in 2019, we have a zero background on air quality management. So I think our approach in cascading information has been very thorough. And from institutional and stakeholder mapping, we engage different stakeholders in table discussions, interviews, and other feedback mechanisms.
Thank you, Ms. Andrea. Apologies, I forgot to go to our virtual speaker, very important stakeholder. My brain is working on very few hours of sleep, so apologies. Yes, Nicole, a very important stakeholder representing the youth, actually, and I think also in the panel session in the morning, there was a mention about, how the youth can play a very important role. So, Nicole, if you could talk about, the first question about the important action that the youth can take and is already taking to address air pollution, and what is the kind of support that you need to do your job better?
Yes, hello, Ms. Karma. I hope you can hear me. Yeah, thank you so much again for inviting me and allowing young people to take up space in important conversations such as this one. So, yeah, it's very tricky because environmental issues are global in its devastation, yet local in its severity. So, it's countries and communities who have contributed the least, yet are the ones most affected. And our ability to seek justice from big polluters is limited, and existing international agreements have not provided countries with sufficient legal clarity on their responsibilities to reduce emissions, meaning they can avoid fulfilling their commitments under international law. So that's why for us in World Suite for Climate Justice, we seek to clarify the obligations of states to protect the rights of current and future generations from the adverse effects of the climate crisis. And now, the most powerful court in the world, the International Court of Justice, is on the cusp of hearing a landmark case on climate change as requested by the United Nations General Assembly. So, one of the most important actions that young people could do to scale up solutions to significantly reduce air pollution in Asia is to amplify their voices through meaningful participation in domestic and international policy and legislative processes that seek to address pressing environmental and human rights issues. So what does this look like, or what are these actions? So for one, we call on our governments and international organizations to make a submission to the International Court of Justice on the climate change advisory opinion. And second, we strongly encourage youth to strategize with other civil society organizations, as what Ms. Yokum mentioned earlier, like strategizing with women and vulnerable communities and indigenous people on how to include stories of empirical evidence in these written submissions, like an annex of lived realities and experiences from our communities. So, for example, when I was in Kathmandu recently for one of our capacity building efforts, one of the first things I noticed was its alarming state of air quality. So I encourage our members from Nepal to include air quality as a point of national interest in preparing their arguments or submissions before the International Court of Justice. So meet with your government representatives and lobby your government to include strong points on climate justice, intergenerational equity, the principle of intergenerational equity, and historic responsibility. So, and with regards to support, and what we always say is that we stand on the shoulders that came before us. So, this problem requires an intergenerational effort. Now, as young people, even now as a young lawyer, in many instances, we are often patronized and we're not given a seat at the big table. So, how we go about this is that we find advocates, and these are esteemed and respected individuals to vouch for us. So that's often how we get a seat at the big table. And that's really one of the important support that we need. And second, I guess like most, we would also really appreciate financial support. Our organization, for example, despite being a global movement, is sustained primarily through the collaborative efforts of our growing network of members and collaborators, the majority of whom contribute voluntarily. This is quite a challenge because of the turnover, but if we could compensate people with indispensable roles, so that would really help make it more sustainable for us. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Nicole, for those important points. And yeah, this concept of intergenerational equity, actually, I'm hearing it for the first time. So yeah, that's quite enlightening. And also, I hope our delegates from Nepal, I think we have a few delegates from Nepal. I hope you heard the message from Nicole. So if we can go back to the second question, which I was asking. So Dr. Noni, can you share from the private sector's perspective, what is the the most important element to have successful stakeholder collaboration?
Thank you. I think there are three words: impactful, coordinated collaborations. I think it's very important. And of course, ideally, it can be led by the government. But as I mentioned earlier, I mean, it is our responsibility to make sure that, in particular, this time, the air pollution is good. It is for us. It's for every single person. So I think whatever we can do, I think it's very important. But having it impactful, meaning it has to be able to be measured, and then also have to be coordinated, because I'm sure there's so many institutions, there's so many private parties, so many government projects that is focusing on these projects, but it is not really coordinated. So therefore, the impact is not as big as it should be, because there is some redundancy in there. And then collaborations. Of course, in particular, for example, as a transportation company, in order for a transportation company to buy electric vehicles, it is not that easy, because capital-wise, then it's like 2.5 times of the price of an ICE and things like that. So we need to have the collaborative support of all stakeholders.
Right, impactful, measurable, and coordinated. Very clear. Thank you. Professor Zhu Tong?
Yes, I have one more slide. I don't know if we can show it here.
Can Professor Zhu's second slide be shown? Please.
Anyway, I think I re-emphasize how important to cross the boundary. Even within the scientific research, we know that we have a community doing the study on the health effect of air pollution. They really talk with people doing the atmospheric chemistry, as vice versa. And people doing the health, doing the climate change, has little discussion with the air pollution. So I think in a sense, we are working at a different priority. We have different targets. For the climate change, we're looking at the 1.5 or 2 degree. And for the air pollution, we have a different ambient air quality standard. But we didn't put health as on the top of our priority. So I think it's time for us to put the health above all this discussion. And we are hoping that using the health effect on the population to be a driver for these 2 or 3 or even more community to working together, because health is the one everybody concerning about. It is very important to recognize that the evidence, the health effect from climate change has been increasingly in the last 10 years. So we found more and more evidence that heat waves, for example, leading to the high mortality or childbirth effect, reproduction effect as well. So it's a long list of health effects caused by climate change. They are very much like the air pollution at its early stage. Now we are building more and more evidence. Now there's a way, if we are talking about carbon neutrality into the future, we should bring the carbon neutrality in the air pollution into the same perspective together. And these two, actually, even we have the global concern, we have a regional and local concern, this concern can be converted into the health effect concern. So I think in the future, we need to cross the boundary in the different fields, air pollution, climate change, and the health study, and to put the health effect as on the top list of priority. And by the way, we are designing our future air pollution control or climate change mitigation policies. We have to find a way that those pathways that could maximize the health benefit. So I think that this is my response to your second question. We need to cross another boundary in order to achieve the most health benefit while we are controlling air pollution or mitigate climate change.
Yes, thank you very much, Professor Zhu Tong, for that. Yes, we should not forget the health aspects, and I think it's great that actually health is being given more importance, I think, in the climate COP. So that's a good development. And thank you for mentioning that, Professor Zhu Tong. So Mon, if you can share your thoughts.
Yeah, I agree fully with our Professor Sutong here that we should collaborate fully and much more strong in terms of seeing our work from the lens of health, both human health and environmental health. Because everything that we do to harm our planet will cause more harm to ourselves. But everything that we do to mitigate air pollution, for example, will promote health. This is where the engagement of doctors, nurses, and other healthcare workers become vital. But secondly, the second element in terms of effective collaboration, I think, is that we should see ourselves working from the perspective of having to transform. Our work should be transformative in a way that healthcare system, both in the Southeast Asia and across the globe, should become resilient, climate smart, as well as ready for any threat of climate and even health impact of pollution as patients are being brought to the hospital. And we're grateful, for example, in the with the ADB because we're part of the Medical Excellence Center project in Thailand, building at least 5 climate smart healthcare, but it is meant to become an example such that the Ministry of Public Health in Thailand can adopt a policy that will transform the entire healthcare system in itself. So at least those two things I want to put emphasis on. That let's look at this from the perspective of health, and everyone will be able to understand. And doctors should be engaged. Second, that therefore we should be able to transform and be transformative in our mindset as we collaborate. We can no longer afford to do our business the way we've been doing it for decades. That's where Dubai, the health day is important. There's a health day for the first time in COP28. And exactly because this is where people are now looking at climate and health, air pollution and health. And we should be going along that because it catches, therefore, all of us working together. Thank you.
Thank you, Mon. So another very important message, prioritize health and look at the issues through the health angle and be transformative in our actions. So if I can go to Nicole, this time around I have not forgotten. So Nicole, can I call on you from, on behalf of the youth, what do you think is the most important element to make stakeholder collaboration work successfully?
Yes. In our organization, for example, we've actually identified 6 pillars that we believe are essential for stakeholder collaboration. And first is that we start with the courtroom because we would like to encourage young people to make their governments accountable. States, as parents patriae, have the duty to protect their people of the present and future generation and uphold their basic rights, such as the right to breathe clean air. And second pillar are national campaigns. So we encourage them to start national campaigns. So we would like to see more youth, uplifting youth. And third is civil society coalitions, because they play such a huge role. They embody the principle that the power of the people are more powerful than the people in power. And our fourth is research writing and legal advocacy. So we want, I think we believe it's very important that stakeholders are informed, we are educated, and we can back our claims with the latest scientific evidence and reports. And then fifth is international advocacy. So as I mentioned earlier, addressing air pollution and climate change requires a global effort. And then last is telling stories of impact. So each one of us becomes storytellers and communicate our lived realities. And for example, how air pollution has affected, how air pollution and the effects of climate change have affected our communities and our homes.
Thank you. It's really inspiring that, at such a young age, you all come up with such great solutions. And the last point on storytelling, I think that's really impactful. And I think we all saw the story that we heard from the lady in the UK who is the mother of the first child who was diagnosed, the cause of death was diagnosed to be because of air pollution. And that story, I think we also was very impactful, and it's very easy to relate to stories like that. So fully agree with that. And lastly, Yoko, if you can share your thoughts on what you think is the best element or the most important element for stakeholder collaboration.
Great, thank you very much. It's always difficult to come last after such a great inputs that has been provided for every sector. But let me just maybe sum up with, I kind of like to sum up in 3 words. I call it 3 I's. But one, on the inclusion, I think that's really important. Second, on integration. And then third, on innovation. So let me just quickly cover these elements. But I think inclusion, we already mentioned quite a bit in this panel too, but we really need whole society to address this issue. And I think it was very impactful how a youth representative, we had women's representative, private sector, government, we all need to come together and have a really inclusive approach and really listen to the voices of the citizens and, reflect on that so that the policies and the programs are relevant to the people on the ground. So that's one element. The integrated approach, I think we already mentioned. I think really air quality is not just, a mechanical sort of infrastructure related solution per se. I think the element of health issue is a really powerful thing, which is our day-to-day life and what does impact us. And climate change, in many ways, many people think that it's a long-term thing, but it's actually, with air pollution and air quality issue, we have really a short-term win to gain. And I think those integrated approach with health, climate change, and also biodiversity, other elements to come together so that we work on this in an integrated, holistic manner. And we call in ADB a one ADB approach, that every sector comes together and solve these issues. And lastly, I think there were some sessions on innovation too, but we have to really build up on the great approaches, but also bring in digital solutions like those monitoring technology, mapping technologies and others, and come up with much more effective way of analyzing these resources, the datas, and come up with effective tools and effective solutions. And I think digital is one thing, but also traditional knowledge and other innovations are there too, and we can build on those. So I would say those 3 elements of I's are very important. And lastly, I really think that effective collaboration really comes with partnership. So I just want to conclude by saying that like this conference is a good example of, ADB and Clean Air Asia and CCAC, who have different elements of strength come together and work on one conference like this and bringing in further partnerships to the table. So with that, thank you very much. And I hope that contributed a little bit. Thank you.
Thank you, Yoko. Absolutely. I think this conference is a great example of, of successful collaboration. We were able to, join forces and build on our strengths and make this great event happen. So I fully agree with that. So with that, I think we have come to the end of our session, and a big thank you to our panelists. And I think the messages which came out very clear is effective communications is very important, and the actions that we must take should be impactful, they should be measurable, and they must be coordinated so that we can avoid duplication and gain efficiencies if we all work together. And the importance of putting a health lens on the issue, from Professor Zhu and Mon, your point. I think that's also very important. And also the issue of the cross-boundary collaboration, whether it comes to, climate data or air pollution data or health data. So that kind of cross-boundary collaboration is also very, very important. And Nicole had mentioned, showed the nice 6 points from the perspective of the work that her group is doing, and the messages on telling your stories and making it, I guess, more easily understandable for the general public on what this issue is all about. And lastly, Yoko's points on the 3 I's: inclusion, integration, innovation. I think that's a great way to actually end this session. So if we can all keep these, the points that have been mentioned by our panelists in our mind, and continue our collaboration beyond this conference, and actually implement all these recommendations that we've heard from our panelists. So a very big round of applause to our panelists, please. Thank you very much, and I believe it's photo session time again.
Thank you very much for such an inspiring panel. We are now in the final hour of the Better Air Quality 2023 conference. And I'd like to call on Martina Otto, the head of the Secretariat of the Climate and Clean Air Coalition, to give her closing remarks. Martina?
Thanks very much, Glinda. And ladies and gentlemen, let me start with a big thank you for your engaged participation, and also to our co-conveners for the excellent cooperation, particularly the ADB for your wonderful hosting. We've been feeling very welcomed here. We had set ourselves goals that we wanted to achieve, and one was to provide a platform for exchange of experience. And can I ask for a show of hands whether during the event you learned something that you can apply at home, or that has given you an idea what to do or to do differently, or whether you had an opportunity to share a story of leadership, a lesson that you've learned, or whether you made a new acquaintance to work together. So if you could just put up your hand whether, well, that looks like full house. I think we got something right here. Thank you so much for your trust and for your openness to share your lessons learned. And without this, we wouldn't have been able to meet this first objective. Another objective was to forge a common understanding around the theme of this year's convening, from ambition to action, clean air for health and climate. So no, don't worry, I won't quiz you once more whether you have those takeaways, but really acknowledging the ambition in this region, we wanted to identify how to increase speed and scale of action. And you heard me say that at the beginning, speed and scale, because we're facing an air pollution and a climate crisis. Air pollution does cost lives, well-being, and economic development every day. And on the climate side, we really have a small window of opportunity that calls for very deep decarbonization and cutting short-lived climate pollutants in parallel to bend the curve fast enough to avoid dangerous tipping points. And climate and pollution are often under different responsibilities in institutions. So we've set ourselves up some silos and some hurdles here, but action on air pollution can give us climate benefits and vice versa. And that goes right back to the pollutants, these double agents that we've been talking about, and the key source sectors. And I heard a lot of that. Every situation in every country is different, even in every city is different. But we heard transport, waste, agriculture, energy systems, and industry coming up pretty much by everybody. And if we look at this in the right way, we can get this double dividend using our financial and human resources effectively for local, regional, and global impact. So I think a really strong call for taking this integrated approach. We saw examples of how better integrated planning helps us optimize our solutions for multiple benefits, how strengthened capacity in institutions allows us to devise and enforce policies. That was a big topic as well. We saw that we have the solutions. We know what we need to do. We have the technologies, and we need the policies that help us transcend from those quick fixes to the deeper transformations in the sectors. And we recognize the role of finance to get to scale. And air quality, it's pretty clear it's underinvested in, and tapping into climate finance makes sense for the above reasons. And thank you again to the ADB for having admitted us into this inner sanctuary of development finance in the region. It gives this needed discussion on finance a very different legitimacy, and it made it also very concrete. We found that a lack of project pipelines of bankable projects was a bottleneck, and we didn't stop here. We started collecting projects right here with an eye on matchmaking. We talked about ways to de-risk CapEx and OpEx, about innovative finance like the bonds, and even expanding that to clean air bonds. We talked about carbon markets, and we've started to unpack that right here as well. Some of this clearly will need some further digging deeper. Current carbon markets, they've been conceived for CO2, not air pollutants that have a higher local warming potential over a shorter period of time, or pollutants that have a higher local effect, depending on the location. So some more work to be done. But we also heard how our community needs to do a better job in making the case for finance with the finance community, starting with Treasury at home. So I will depart from here, and apologies, I will really run out of the room to beat the traffic right after this, but I will depart from here much more confident that we can turn ambition to action. The train really has left the station. You see, I'm on my departing, right? The train has left the station, and we're on it together. So if I had to describe in one word how I feel about things after these 3 days, my one word would be confident. I look forward to continuing the cooperation and coming together at, well, the next BAQ in 2025 to take stock and celebrate progress. We will keep our eyes on the 3 I's that Yoko mentioned. And the team CCIC is really ready to team up. Partnership is in our DNA. You have our commitment to continue support policy development, institutional strengthening, the sector transformation, and driving further the finance agenda. We have some opportunities coming up at the next COP with the Health Day that was mentioned already. We have some sessions there. And obviously there's also the UN Environment Assembly with a good focus on the pollution topic as well. So thank you very much. Thanks to all the colleagues as well behind the co-convening organizations. They have put in a lot of work to make this a very smooth operation. So thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Martina, and safe travels to you. I hope you beat the traffic of Manila. Very confident that, we shall reduce air pollution. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to now call on Bjarne Pedersen, Executive Director of Clean Air Asia, for his closing remarks. Bjarne.
So here we are, day 3. Hello, everyone. Ladies and gentlemen, as we draw the curtains on this year's Better Air Quality Conference, I want to start by extending my heartfelt thank you to each and every one of you. We had more than 700 delegates here from more than 39 countries, representing a diverse range of stakeholders committed to achieving better air quality. Your presence here your dedication and your commitment to addressing the critical issues of air pollution and climate change has made this event a resounding success. Over the past few days, we have delved into the pressing challenges facing the region. We've discussed innovative solutions, forged new partnerships. The knowledge shared, the practical discussions, and the initiatives advanced during this conference have not only enriched our understanding, but also laid the groundwork for real, tangible change. The theme of this year's conference, Ambition to Action, served as a powerful reminder that our intentions and aspirations are only as good as the actions we take to realize them. We've heard inspiring stories, witnessed groundbreaking research, and seen the commitment of countless of individuals and organizations ready to act and make a lasting impact. At Clean Air Asia, we feel also reaffirmed in our belief that equity lies at the very heart of our work. Clean and healthy air is not a privilege for the few, but a fundamental right that every community, and especially the most disadvantaged and vulnerable, should enjoy. We are dedicated to addressing disparities and striving for a fair and sustainable future for all, even more so after this conference. The complex nature of the challenges we face underscores the necessity of collaboration and innovation. No single entity, no single solution can tackle these issues alone. It's only through our collective efforts and creative solutions that we can truly make a difference to the people's lives, to the lives of people across Asia. With this in mind, I want to express our sincere gratitude to our co-organizers, the Asian Development Bank, the Climate and Clean Air Coalition, for their invaluable support and collaboration. Their dedication to hosting the event, but also to the cause, has been instrumental to the success of this conference. I would also like to thank the incredible hard-working BAQ team, all the Clean Air Asia staff, the fantastic ADB team, the excellent CCAC team, our exhibitors, partner organization, and not least all our volunteers and ushers that just made everything run so smoothly. I want to especially mention Glinda and Karma. Without them, this wouldn't really be a BAQ. They have done a fantastic job. I also want to mention in the background, Jovi has been running logistics like logistics should be run, and Sami, the BAQ coordinators, made everything look so smooth and nice and ready and easy. So thank you to Jovi and Sami. I could mention a lot more individuals. I will stop here and just say that there was an incredible team behind this conference, and also, of course, my own board. Thank you to you all. So, as we leave this gathering, let's carry with us the knowledge, inspiration, and a shared commitment to clean air and a sustainable future. Today, together, we have not only discussed the way forward, but also we have taken important steps towards genuine change. I think Martina was the one saying train. So we've taken genuine steps towards change and getting on the train, as Martina said. In closing, thank you all for your unwavering dedication to the conference, your passion and your willingness to join us in the fight for clean air and a stable climate. Again, the journey does not end here. It enters a new chapter. Let's go forth and transform our ambitions into actions for the benefit of not only us, our generations, but also the generations to come. Safe travels at the end of the conference, and until we meet again at the Better Air Quality Conference in 2025, look out for an announcement sometimes in the close future. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Bjarne. And now representative of our host, the Asian Development Bank, I'd like to call on Director General of the East Asia Department of the Asian Development Bank, Teresa Ko, to give her closing remarks. A big hand, please.
Good afternoon, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. We have come to the end of a very productive and enlightening conference, which also included 2 days of pre-conference activities. And we have been honored to host over 700 delegates from 39 countries who joined us with a unified goal to improve air quality and address climate change for the well-being of our communities in the Asia-Pacific region. Among us, there are representatives of NGOs, research institutes, and think tanks, the private sector, and from development organizations, including bilateral and multilateral financiers. Throughout this conference, we have been fortunate to examine vital aspects of air quality, climate change, and how they affect our lives, as well as possible solutions. Let us reflect on what brought us here together in Manila and underscore some important points, including those from our discussions. We have heard repeatedly throughout the conference this figure from a UNEP report of 7 million premature deaths caused by air pollution worldwide. This includes 13 to 21% of deaths from stroke, lung cancer, ischemic heart disease, type 2 diabetes, and chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, which can be traced to air pollution. The OECD projects a substantial increase in global air pollution-related healthcare costs from $21 billion in 2015 to $176 billion by 2060. It also predicts that the collective annual number of lost working days can rise from about 1.2 billion days in 2010 to 3.7 billion days by 2060. The Clean Air Fund reports that in India alone, air pollution costs Indian businesses $95 billion annually, or 3% of GDP. We heard earlier that air quality and improving it leads to better health by reducing harmful emissions, as well as higher productivity. In fact, data from the Air Quality Life Index recently reported that reducing PM2.5 to meet the World Health Organization guideline increases human life expectancy by 2.3 years. Striving to meet air quality standards is a win-win situation. It protects our health, improves economic performance, and combats climate change at the same time. During the conference, we have gained a lot of new knowledge that will help us, and it will equip us for designing better solutions. For example, the findings of a WHO study on air quality standard in the Western Pacific region was shared in one of the breakout sessions. The study report, which is to be published soon, compared the air quality standards of Western Pacific countries with the WHO 2021 guidelines and found that the standards of most countries are within interim target 1 of the guidelines, which is the least stringent standard. This kind of data is useful to guide the improvement of air quality policy decisions and actions. The initial results of an upcoming Clean Air Asia report on status and trends of air quality in Asia was also presented in one of the breakout sessions. This study provided a wealth of data on status of air quality monitoring stations in different countries, key sector sources of PM 2.5, key sources of local emissions, status of emission standards, and much more. Such kind of data are extremely important for designing targeted and effective solutions. I'd also like to highlight the impressive array of solutions and project ideas that have been discussed throughout this conference, including display of some highly innovative clean technology in the exhibition area. We witnessed a remarkable outpouring of creativity and innovation. Over the course of the conference, we have also been able to record over 45 project ideas put forward by developing member country delegates. These are just the ones that organizing team members were able to record. I'm sure many more ideas were discussed. This is something unique that has been done in this conference with the intention of speeding up implementation of solutions and actions. The ideas covered a range of sectors including clean energy, agriculture, household cooking, industrial activities, and majority were under the transport sector. This demonstrates our collective commitment to address the intertwined challenges of air quality and climate change. Under the ADB Asia Clean Blue Skies program, we, along with our partners and developing member countries, we would like to further analyze these project ideas and put in best efforts to translate as many of these ideas into project actions. Given that air quality and climate change are two sides of the same coin, we would like to make these project ideas a part of our ambitious mission to mobilize $100 million or billion dollars, I should say, equivalent by 2030. As we depart from this gathering today, let us reflect on what brought us here in the first place. It is the conviction that we have a significant role to play in addressing the critical challenges of our time: air quality and climate change in the Asian Pacific region. Each one of us has a significant role to play, either as a policy advocate, a policymaker, an investor, or a lender. I encourage each of you to prioritize, act at a policy level, or invest individually or collectively and make significant progress towards achieving cleaner air and a stable climate for everyone. Good air quality is not a nice to have. It is a must to have. I wish you all safe journeys back to your respective countries and organizations, and I thank you for once again for joining us, for your dedication and active participation in this year's Better Air Quality Conference. Thank you.
Thank you very much, DG Teresa Ko, for those inspiring remarks. And now, if you remember, it was Dr. Bindu Luhani who opened the Better Air Quality 2023 conference. So it is but apt that he be given the final closing remarks, but also to give us some key takeaways to bring with us as we go back home and address air pollution. Dr. Bindu Luhani, Chair of the Board of Trustees of Clean Air Asia.
There'll be no more speech after that. So this is the last talk. Be Clean Air, BAQ 23 is over after this. I've been asked to say, put up something like key messages. My goodness, how many? Kevin, I want to say 100, 50, 20. We debated how many. Whether you like or not, we say we'll limit to 10. And not all the idea that you've said might have been in exactly the way you would want to see the words, but it's there in one form or the other. But if we have missed something very seriously, we'll add. Give it to Glenn, now we can still add. Well, throughout this conference, we have explored the intricate relationship between air quality, climate dynamics, public health. I see Professor Zhu here, health, environmental justice, the equity issues, we heard the youth, economy. Teresa, I'm glad you mentioned how much economic losses the countries are making. Sometimes these numbers are not fully available, but we need to make an effort to have more of these. And this is also an issue for economic development and the overall quality of life. I mean, that is the broad picture. Now, if we try to sum up all these ambition to action, clean air for health and climate, then I think we can put in maybe 3 areas first, which will be hard. One, we need to ground action based on scientific evidence. This came up. BAQ, Clean Air Asia, believes in science, evidence-based, and take the action based on science. Full stop. I think that's our strength, limitation, if you want to say. We need to scale up. That's been, message is very, very clear. We need to think of and embrace comprehensive solutions. The word is comprehensive. One of the ICOCO said integrated, holistic, whatever word we use, we need a comprehensive solution. I think we all agree to that. And we need to cover just about everything, but there are some more than the others, like policies, technology, governance, partnerships, and collaboration, just to name a few, but holistic thinking on every situation. Third areas, I would say the financial resources. It came up all the time, money, 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 how much money has been spent, how much money is insufficient. It is true. We have done some, money is there, but not enough. What we have put in, this scale is just not enough. So inadequate funding, needing more funding, and we'll see how some of those things can come in future. So in these 10 messages, the first one is a very simple message that we know, which we know, and even if we know, we have to say it again to reaffirm it, because something that we know, we have to keep on saying it because it's not been done fully. Something that we know, we need to say, but we need to emphasize even more so that people will listen more many times. Third, sometimes there are new ideas which have come in this BAQ, something which has to be now a new message that we need to bring it to the others. The first one is health. Health is an important one, which was said, but air quality is not only a health issue, it's a priority, is health, but also a very crucial step towards climate crisis. We heard that. We heard that it's very economy, very important to the economy of the country. We spoke a lot about co-benefits and co-benefits and co-benefits, but I think co-benefits is one thing, but air pollution itself is an agenda by itself in many cases. So there are co-benefits and there are areas where air pollution is an agenda by itself. Second, tools and techniques and research and R&D. I said tool and techniques because when this morning the money, you saw the money that went to the tools, techniques, data collection, 1%. If you don't have good data, if you don't have good research, I was a professor one time, I know the importance of data modeling. I used to do this modeling in those days. I can't do that, professor, anymore, but I used to do it. Those are very, very essential information that we need to really make better decisions. You can't do a solution without that. So we need to spend on air quality monitoring, as I said on the first day, not very popular with the donors to give on monitoring and give you something on the equipments, but we need it. We need to have that money to do that. We need to have money to do the modeling, cost benefit analysis, R&D, research institution. All of those are important. These are our friends if we want to do evidence-based solution. The third, we need to follow an year-set approach. I think Professor said the cross-border, transboundary, but I was in a session with the MOEJ and IESA. And those guys have done lots of modeling work. And one of the things they said, among other things, is large share of 2.5 particulars, 2.5 PM 2.5, comes from sources in the cities, comes from outside. This is modeling says. So obviously, yes, the mayor is very, very keen to get the city right. The mayor needs to talk to another mayor, maybe needs to talk to another country to make sure that we are doing something together. This is science. That modeling was very, very interesting to me. The third is the methane agenda. Now, those of us who've been attending COP, certainly the methane is a big agenda now. And methane is air pollutant, right? Sometimes we even don't agree. The global, because of the methane affecting the global heating, we know it by now. And methane is also a lot more dangerous than the CO2. We know that, 21 times more. So methane contributes to these very ground level ozone issues. We know that. But the methane, the SLCPs really provide a great opportunity for us, short-lived climate pollutants, within the methane to really go and work with the climate change in a synergistic effect and also raise money. We have to sometimes think differently. In this conference, people said we need to package these projects differently, right? I think this is a methane issue, and it's a very, very important agenda for the 1.5 degree climate agenda. The methane issue, I think we need to really bring it in home. The fifth point to me is promoting just energy transition. It's been talked about. You know, COP26, phase down coal, didn't happen. Go to 27, phase out, phase down, phase out to phase down. So the idea is, I think we need to keep on tackling the fossil fuel issues, which is a climate change agenda, energy agenda, air pollution agenda, health agenda, economic agenda, you name it. So we need to start thinking about the renewable side. We need to think about, even there was a presentation of cooking stoves, completely, it'll be nice to throw it all biomass cooking stove, replace one day just with electric cooking, problem solved. So these kind of stuff for which there maybe need some funding, the solutions is easy. Maybe if there's money, I would just provide everyone a free stove, electric stove, and the problem is solved, like Mike was saying. You know, we know the solutions, but we may need to take that strong commitment in the policy sector. We need to promote cross-sectoral collaboration. I think this came up very well in the meeting. Look at every sector that you can think of: energy, transport, agriculture, which is also bringing to the city sometimes the particulate matter, etc., etc. An integrated approach. This is in the SDG goal also. Integrated, 17 goals needs to be integrated, because it doesn't happen. You know, the mayor, some people are still thinking my water, my energy, my transport department. I think we need to change the thinking, maybe clean air, maybe has been also trying very hard to do integrated ways of thinking. I think now doing is required more. Seventh to me is technology. There are technology we know which we could take it today and do it easy. There are new technologies which are coming in, some innovative technology, which we should probably also bring it home and ensure that we really play a very active role in promoting such technology. And Dr. Noni mentioned about what she is doing in the transport sector. I was in one session where my Chinese colleague was talking about the EVs, the development, new data, new science. I think the message is clear. In the EV business, we've talked very pieces. The message in the EV thing is getting the DNA right. I mean, some people say, I need to do EV infrastructure, I need to think about battery, I need to think the whole ecosystem. The countries need to think of the whole ecosystem. Of course, the private sector like to do pieces. And I think there was a Thai gentleman who said, well, I'm not going to wait for the government to do it. I'm going to do it anyway, and then approach the government to get the policy. That's good too. That's your responsibility. That is, Dr. No needs to say, I'm going to do this. I'm going to talk to the government. If they provide, fine. And they provide usually. They know it's a good cause, but they can't take the initiative that we do. And I think this technology part, my pitch has always been, this is my personal 3-word. I always tell my government people that you adopt the technology. If, oh, that's very good. The Thais are doing very good. Indonesia doing good. Simply adopt it. If it's good, fits you. If it doesn't fit you, still good idea. I want to make it fit, adapt it. Make it adaptable. And third, if the technology we're using, whether it's monitoring stations or in the transport sector is so bad, I don't think it's worth playing with it. Just leapfrog, throw it in and just leapfrog to them. That's my AAA message in the technology when I speak. And I think this is true for this session also. I would, again, here I already said the private sector's role is so important in this one, this whole EV infrastructure business. There are various models, and there are sometimes very strong commitment by the government, and you clean it up all. I remember going to Shenzhen and said, okay, the 16,000 buses are all electric now, problem solved. And next year they say, okay, in future we'll have 17,000 taxis electric. My goodness, you don't have pollution problem, right? That's a commitment at the highest level. So these are the kind of things sometimes we can advise the government to take that very strong policy decisions. To do that, you need to take a long-term view. If you start doing today's budget, today's cost, it will not be viable. You need to think it's a transformational impact. By 2050 agenda, I think some of these start falling in place. Maybe you'll get carbon credit money also for this, if you smartly package this kind of project. So that's very important. The 8th point to me is the word, again, Yoko Watanabe said, one of the I, which is inclusiveness. Very important. Inclusive engagement. Let me talk about inclusive engagement. We need to have equitable, clean air. We heard many people said we must have the right to breathe clean air. We don't have yet. I don't know that will happen clean air in my lifetime, but I'm still breathing whatever air is available to the best of my ability. And engage this youth, because every time we talk about climate and this long-term agenda, 2050, this is the agenda of the youth. By 2050, I won't be there. But many of the younger people will be there. So they must say, this is my agenda. If these people like us, you, me, don't do the work, they think we're going to inherit this problem. We said the same thing when we are working on the environment. If we didn't clean it up, we may give the dirty job to the youth. So youth, not only become advocate, advocacy is important. But I always say to the youth that you need to engage. Say that it's my agenda, I need to be a part of doing too. Advocacy, yes, but please also do whatever you can starting yesterday, right? And I think we also need to, with this BAQ plus other information, we need to create more awareness, more participation. I was very happy to hear the mayor from Nepal said, I prepare my clean air action plan not by going to the ministry, but by engaging my people. So I have a buy-in for people. People say, no polluting vehicle, it was accepted by the people. Sometimes the mayors come and the mayor say, I want to build a tower. And when the mayor goes, another mayor says, I don't want to build a tower. But this, if you engage the people, I think that lasts. So that was a very, very good message. Participation, inclusiveness, and citizen engagement is very, very important. Number 9, I'm almost close. Funding, inadequate funding, insufficient funding, innovative funding, we've heard them all. I was one time the vice president of finance in here, so I've heard it all. But the point is very clear that we just need more money, right? I think so. We need to make effort from everywhere. Sometime, as I said, we need to start talking air pollution, packaging air pollution project differently, right? Suddenly your methane project could become air pollution and climate change projects and public health projects. So you need to start packaging. I remember doing a Metro Manila air pollution loan here many, many years ago. And it was a health project because we were able to show by the cost benefit analysis the people who were affecting health. There's a school called here, Pobeda, very famous school next to ADB. We were checking the lead content of the blood and found out the children had high lead content. And go to the US EPA data and say, by goodness, Mr. President, your children will have 5 IQ points less. He said, no, I don't want to have that. Which parent wants to have that? Suddenly take lead out of the gasoline. So these are convincing, so there's storytelling, but I want to tell stories based on the science and the data. That's our strength, in my opinion. So we need to approach funding differently. Alternative ways of funding. We know all the instruments. I've heard all the instruments in my life about green bonds, private equity fund, public-private partnership, on and on, I can go on. But you need to choose the instrument that works. Like when I was one time the vice president here, I did a water bond. Some of my financial treasury people say, well, that's crazy, vice president. Why do I want a water bond? I need the fund for. But the idea was by making the water bond, I was locking in that money for water. That's the advantage of the clean air bond, which Karma and other people said, if you really want it, it is because you want to lock that money for that purpose only. Otherwise, money is fungible. When we have $30 billion in the Asian Development Bank, they can use it anywhere. But when we say the air pollution bond, by God, they got to use it for that. They have green bonds, they have education bonds, and so on and so forth. That is the advantage of the tool. It may work in some countries. Some countries are already issuing it. So we need to think. We need to leverage. I heard the word leverage. We hear in every project, not only clean air project, infrastructure project. You build the bridges, you build the roads, leverage the money. So in our case, we need to leverage even more because we have less. That's why you need to do this leveraging partnership. There was a chart shown this morning, World Bank, ADB, etc. I think we're leveraging ourselves, we are collaborating ourselves, and I think the private sector resources probably needs to be leveraged. And also talking about leveraging, we need to talk about government money. Here we talk less about government money, but there was one panel, and I think or somebody said government money is important. But the government finance ministry, we have few here. I can see it here. There are a few finance ministry guys. There are a few planning ministry like NEDA. There are a few from economic people, but they will be there. Once you show the information, data, that it is an economic issue, it is a financial issue, it is hurting your GDP by so many percent. Just the climate guys have done by Nepal. If you don't do anything by 2100, you will lose 7 to 10% of the GDP. You wake up, you grow 2%, 3%, and suddenly you lose 10%. We need to have that kind of data to go to the finance ministry, planning ministry. I think in the air pollution, should I say we have limited so far? Maybe we need to do more in future, to bring in those finance people. And governments have in some cases done. I was in panel by Bhushan, he was saying government have started taxing, they tax the gasoline. But I don't know where that money goes. I want that money go to air pollution. So that's the kind of advocacy policy that we require. Twist the policy. Yes, I'll pay tax for the gasoline, but I want you to use it for air pollution. I think those kind of policy dialogue is very, very useful to the government. So bottom line is we need more money, and we'll see how we can get that in future, both for this agenda. 10th point, last point. I don't want to go on more. I think something has been said, but probably not said enough. strategies. We need to have a strategy. We need to have policy. There was one presentation here, we said the current policies of the government, many governments, I should say, are not adequate to address the 2.5, PM 2.5. The existing policy will just not enough. You will not meet your requirements with the WHO standards, etc. So then we need to tackle that policy. Said, please change before we start even taking action. Make say, I want to change the policy so that I can see the action that will give me that results. So there are such analysis which are required, in my opinion, and I think I heard that in one session that was very, very smart. So we need to think about the strategy, policies. Also, there were legislation, regulation. One simple regulation can change the thing. I said in the opening remarks, just because you have a Euro 4 and above requirement, the transportation side has reduced so much air pollution. So working on those very critical legislation policy is required. I think like Glenda is working on coal police policy. We can work on various other policies, looking at the government policy, helping them. It's not only criticizing, helping them how to get those policy right would be very, very important. So together we need, therefore, the knowledge sharing and capacity side. Many countries that I know, I live now in developing countries, I know they need a lot of capacity help, a lot of knowledge sharing help. We don't want, they say, we don't want to bring yet another consultant who will again compile everything and give it to me. I think just go and tell me what I can do right away based on the best practices, based on the knowledge you have. And capacity, build my capacity so that I can keep on doing better. And that reflects the voices from many sectors, from the government, from academia, NGOs, civil society, youth, development organizations, private sector. Some private sector say, okay, tell me how to do it. I don't know, I have money, I'm in the transport business, but tell me. Not everybody is like Dr. Noni, I think but we need to have more people like her who can do more in future. And one thing that, again, we didn't talk too much, but we need to talk is, many developing countries in Asia, where there are good policy, the enforcement is very poor. Now, you have in your policy, you should meet this, and they don't meet it. I think that is not the way to go. Those must be tackled. If it's in the US, I think they will tackle, they'll take you to the court, they will do other things, EPA will be at your back and so on. I don't know what is needed. Each country needs to really make sure what you put in your policy, you must enforce. I think this would be our strong message to all the governments. So therefore, I think I want to conclude that let's promote air pollution awareness, let's advocate for global and regional science-based policies, support initiative for better air quality and climate action, foster cross-border air quality relationship, partnership, and get climate action together with the air pollution. And also think about many innovative ways of doing things, because at the end of the day, whatever Clean Air Asia is doing, ADB is doing, our CCAC is doing, is that then we're trying to protect the health and well-being of these, how many we said, 2.3 billion people in Asia Pacific region. This is the data, Glenda gave it to me, who are exposed to toxic air. And these individuals who are affected, I think Clean Air Asia, World Bank, KDB, and all the others who are working in this field, at the end of the day, they should be the beneficiary. They should be the beneficiary. Thank you very much. I'd like to also take this opportunity to thank, once again, even all the BRNA has already thank the ADB through Yoko Watanabe, Karma, you work very hard, Glenda, and BRNA from our Clean Air Asia, and many people behind, through you people, for the whole organization. Teresa, thank you for coming. So all those people really behind who make these kind of things happen. We read sometime based on what the material they give, but they work very hard to come up with some points for me so that I can speak along that line. Thank you for the intellectual help as well. This is an area I'm passionate because I know as early as when I got my environmental engineering in US in 1972, 73, USCP was just established, and I was teaching in 1977 an air pollution course. And people, not many people in this region taught air pollution. Don't tell me that I can teach any nowadays. I can't, but I'm very passionate about this. So I'd like to thank everyone who made this a very big success. And inshallah, we see in 2025. Maybe again Karma, I don't know. Maybe again Glenda. So thank you very much. So if I said something wrong, Glenda will correct, yeah.
No speech from me, so thank you very much, everyone, and safe travels back to your home country. A round of applause for all of you. And as we are in the Philippines, we need a photo of the remaining speakers, as instructed by our floor manager. So, Digi Teresa, Bjarne, and Bindu. Last photo. And please fill out the evaluation form. We have a QR code for your evaluation, please. And we'll send out a message.
Okay. Ready?
Photo.
Were you here when I actually mentioned you, or were you hiding outside? No, I was like writing a break.
You're gonna take the photos?
Oh yeah, sure.
Where to sit? Bring your team too, I think Karma and all those.